He hit reversing bands. Unbelievable. Okay, here we go. And that's the school bell. Marylebone is very much a village. Um, Hi everyone. This is the very first seminar on behalf of the Mentalist Entrepreneur Circle. I'd like today to introduce to everybody Craig Smith. Today's topic is MBAs, the power of them, what they can bring your business, what they can bring you, how they revitalize stuff, how it can turn an extra dial in terms of an exit. How often, when people are looking at investment in companies, they're looking at what you put your senior leadership through. Ticks a lot of boxes. And we just celebrated, it was only a week ago, when a few people from Cast UK just got their MBAs. So we know it works, so that's quite good. Craig, should we start talking about you climbing that mountain behind you by saying which mountain it is?
Well, I've actually been informed today that it is possibly the Matterhorn. I am embarrassed to say I didn't know what mountain it was, even though it sits behind me on my backdrop. But there you go. I know a lot about master's degrees, not a lot about mountains, clearly.
Yeah, that was me winding you up. I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
Craig, buddy, how would you like to do this? Because you know more about you than I do.
Yeah, I'll give a bit of an overview about who I am, and sort of like, what I suppose what puts me in a position to talk about this. I can go through because I suppose it's starting with the slides really. These are the key themes we're going to talk about today, which I'll get into shortly. But really, who's the big bearded chap on the screen? What's his background and why has he got something to say about master's degrees? I'll be frank with you, I wouldn't class myself as an academic. I'm a person who's lived through the problem in multiple different sectors, and I think many people that'll be listening to this will probably put themselves in that category as well. My background, law enforcement for 10 years, and then went into education, taught 16 to 19-year-olds. I was saying to Emma, I had nice, thick, luscious hair and was clean shaven when I started teaching 16-year-olds, and my head fell upside down. But my current role, I'm the head of education for Minerva Elite Performance. We are a business that works very closely with the armed forces communities and blue light services, but we do work in other sectors as well. And in all honesty, it's about developing teams, developing leaders, and I would really encourage anyone to reach out to me and engage me on the platform that we've got. It's a great platform, and I'd love to engage with people around different topics of this nature.
I muted myself because I'm outside. I think that'd be brilliant. So we've got half an hour. It'd be lovely if I could ask you questions going through it, so it make it kind of interactive. If that's all right with you, and yeah, I'll just let you do your thing, buddy.
I'll do my thing, Gary, but please do ask questions because I'm sure you've got some good insight to bring to us. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, an MBA, what I wish I knew then. I think it's an interesting topic when you think about an MBA, because a lot of individuals, they class themselves as, well, I'm not an academic, I don't want to do something of that nature. It's level 7, it's quite high. An MBA puts you in the top 1.8% of the UK population. I think when you hear stats like that, we self-diagnose of that's not something I could possibly achieve, or what value is it really going to add to me. I think the first thing that I would say, Gary, that I got from doing it and from taking people through it is you stop asking what's the answer and start thinking about what's the framework. So you start looking at problems more from a macro perspective rather than a micro perspective. You understand, I liken it to this. When you're in a game of chess, you're thinking about your next move. It allows you to elevate above the chessboard and look at all the parts moving and actually see where do you create the most value. I think what the MBA really does for a lot of individuals that have gone through our program is they realize that every business problem is secretly a people problem. When you're looking at sort of like running large organizations, especially in the public sector, the biggest commodity, the biggest value you have are your people. And how we lead people is often something I think we don't give enough credit to, Gary. Being an outstanding leader and understanding the frameworks which constitutes outstanding leadership are far too regularly dismissed, because we always think we promote internally because someone's really good at what they do. But are they an outstanding leader? Can they see the strategic journey of the organization they're in? And I think what it also allows you to do is start scanning for risks and opportunities and the consequences. It allows you to look all the way down to the finish line of the journey, if you will, and see problems in your organization, not so much as problems, but opportunities for change. what I found really interesting about doing it myself was it actually was one of the few times in my life, Gary, that I stopped and actually reflected on why things fell apart in certain organizations and what went wrong in that situation. And it's not the content that changes you, it's the constant mental pushback against your own assumptions. Because I think we have a lot of assumptions in leadership of what we think constitutes leadership. And I think doing something like an MBA allows you to do that when you start seeing the world a bit more like a consultant. Does that make any sense?
It does. I think a lot of people might not even realize the component parts that make up an MBA, or the fact that you can choose your topic
Yeah.
pretty much as you see fit within the business. So it could even be so much as um, business development in the current world, right? So it could be you get a gong for actually just doing something that would be a really a long-term benefit for you to the business.
100%, Gary. And that's something that I think people misalign what doing something on MBA is. They think it's like a curriculum, like you're doing geology at school. It's not that. It's very much targeted towards problems in your industry. So, you know, the advice I give to individuals is when you're picking your MBA dissertation, pick something that actually adds value beyond the MBA, because it then becomes a project that you're actually using within your organization to create value. And the byproduct is you get the second highest qualification in the United Kingdom, you know, by osmosis. So you're spot on, Gary. That's exactly how people need to reframe it in their minds.
I'm muting at will here. Okay, that sounds brilliant. Do you want me to ask questions, or is there a couple of slides you wanted to give people now?
Yeah, there's a few slides to go through on different topics. But I mean, it depends on how you want to do this, Gary. I mean, the format, I can keep going through this because each slide's got a different kind of angle. Or would you rather just us have a professional discussion around this?
Okay, so what I think people are interested to say, okay, what's my commitment to it? How does it work? How do you pay for it? Um, is it hard? It's just let's just do the frequently asked questions bit,
Yeah.
and then people just say that would you like to have an MBA at the end of it? Well, yes. But I don't want to steal your thunder with your slides. Just ping a slide up. Let's talk about it and we'll move on.
Okay.
Try and
Well,
rattle
I'll
it
tell you
through in half hour.
you've got some great questions there, though, Gary. So let's answer one of them, and maybe we'll tag one onto each slide. To answer your question, you know, what's the work commitment like? Really, it depends on what your project is. So, full transparency, when I went through this journey, I did 4 hours a week every Sunday, 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. for 9 months, and I had an MBA. So my life wasn't completely put on hold. And I think that's a misconception around studying something of this nature. You think that you have to kind of derail every other progress in your life. It's around making it fit into the world around you.
But it doesn't have to be weekends. It could be evenings.
Yeah.
You could use
Yeah.
it
I
at
mean,
lunchtimes.
it could be absolutely any time. I mean, you know, the 4 hours on a Sunday was just fitted into my life. And I think, you know, that's poignant to bring up, that it's about making it fit around when you can fit it in rather than allowing it to derail other things you've got. But to your point, yeah, you could do it on lunch breaks, a couple of hours a week. The whole point of that is it took me 4 hours a week in 9 months and I was done.
Okay, you got an MBA in 9 months. Okay, that's pretty much going at it. And what support do you need to get through this? So you guys, you help frame it. Do you help people
Yeah.
set up what they think their topic is going to be? Are you looking at the ongoing work? Who ends up marking this? Is it a proper MBA or is it one that you buy from India? Let's ask all the questions, shall we?
Let's ask the difficult questions. Well, first of all, it is definitely a proper MBA, not one that purchased overseas. The MBA top up is with one of our partnering universities in the UK. The primary one we use is Cardiff Met Business School, which is an internationally recognised organisation. In terms of the support network that you've got, one thing I would say on this, Gary, is your academic ability is not as important as your ability to apply yourself. You know, I've worked with lazy academics, and people watching this film clip will probably have academics that have worked for them in the past, and they go, you know, I can get a lot more out of someone who can apply themselves, that have lived in the real world, than I can ever get out of a lazy academic. So you don't have to be super smart to do it. What I will say, though, Gary, is you need to have context in what you're talking about. So this is a professional qualification for people who have lived through the problems, because when you're writing your dissertation, your assignments, you are deep diving on where things have gone wrong and you've observed that. So you're essentially dissecting things you've seen in your industry and then building best practice going forward. So it is a
That's
qualification.
interesting. Does it
Sorry.
have to be what's gone wrong, or could it just
No.
be that the market shifted?
It could be the market shifted. It could be that changed management. But let me give you an example of that. So when you're looking at Unit 2 and you're looking at something like Lewin's change model, that's great, understanding the theory behind it. But can you imagine that connecting the dots when you can understand the theory, then recognize something you've actually seen in industry and gone, that's why it didn't work, or that's why it did work so well, because we had this framework. It's a bit like the conscious competence scale. That's what something like a master's degree gives you. It connects the practical application to the theoretical understanding.
Okay, right. You've just lost half your audience there because you mentioned something about Lewins that I didn't understand. It's
Yeah.
right. Let's keep it at my level, and then people will understand. So we don't need to chuck in an academic quote here. So there are classic frameworks by which we can come up with how we create the dissertation. So it's a practical application of something that was is could be quite thoughtful and provocative
Yeah.
and challenging. But you don't need to have known all these things up front. That's what you guys bring to the table. Okay, and then that model again, you can use multiple times in multiple different situations. You're learning how to learning how to do these things. A little, very much like a science degree. Is when you work out how you can actually do the research to come up with a conclusion and the process by which you do that. So, I'm maths and physics, so that kind of resonates with me um,
Yeah.
in my background. Okay, so you guys help frame this. What's the commitment to you guys? So if you're doing it over 9 months, I'm guessing that you had someone to lean on all the way through this. How often were you speaking to them, and did they set you tasks and milestones?
Yeah, so the way in which we manage this, I want you to think of it more like enrolling onto like a mentoring and coaching process. So when you enroll on to do something of this nature, it's not like a normal cohort at normal universities where you're turning up every Tuesday night, 6 till 9, with a load of other individuals in either the physical or the online classroom. It's based on a one-to-one basis. So to answer your question, Gary, the support is as much as you need, but the people who make the most meaningful and timely progress on this journey are the ones who engage with the support the most.
Okay, but give us an idea of the average Joe. Is that what we're talking
Average
about?
Joe, yeah. So average Joe would be looking at probably jumping onto a Teams call or online meetings with the tutors for about an hour a week for that 6 to 9 month
Okay, there we
period.
go. Right. Um, and once you've done your dissertation, how many words is that? What we working towards here?
So with the level 7 extended diploma, which you do, which allows you to then top up to an MBA, because you can't just walk in off the street and do an MBA. You need the credit value.
Right.
So MEP, for example, run a 120 credit level 7 extended diploma, which gives you enough credits to do what's called a fast track to an MBA. All of our assignments, of which there are 6, are about 4.5 to 5,000 words long each. And then Cardiff Met's dissertation is a 7,000 word dissertation, but on something that really interests you. So the word count's almost irrelevant. Look at it like there are 7 assignments in the full journey.
Okay, and have you got a slide that gives people just that understanding of we have to get that box ticked before we can do the next bit, before we can get to the MBA?
No, there's not a slide that goes over that.
Okay. What's the first slide we're working towards here, by the way? Give us a clue.
The MBA is a key.
Okay. So is the MBA a key?
Depends how you look at it. So what I will say, and I'll say this a bit tongue in cheek, you can get by in life without an MBA. I'm not naive. It's not a key to every single door. What it will allow you to do is see things slightly differently. But let's talk about it quite literally as a key. With some of the demographics we work with, especially those special forces veterans that are transitioning into a completely different sector, they will be looking at trying to crack into an industry that doesn't really understand their background. So having something like an MBA is a universal language that everybody understands.
Got a kid's school right walking right past me. Okay, uh, so effectively, when we were at S3 to go through the IPO, they wanted us as a senior leadership team, the most senior leadership team, to go to Stanford to do one, and
Yep.
it was ridiculously expensive. It was full on. We were there on and off for about 3 months. Um, but it came back with a qualification that everyone went, okay, right. So you are investing. So once the six of us left, then the next level had all done this. They all spoke the same language, used the same toolkit, and it made perfect sense. So even when I didn't do it,
Hmm.
but all my people did, so they all spoke a common language. So
Yeah.
it was very useful, and we actually thought it was better that almost that we were on an exit journey.
Hmm.
It was better for the second generation than us doing it, and people were only doing it just because they actually fancy going to Stanford for 3 months, and it was quite good fun, and they wanted to do it and keep their brains fresh. So
Yeah.
so it doesn't have to be just for you as the business leader, right?
No, exactly that. It can be for your individuals within your organization. We did some work with a company in the tech space, actually, Gary, that they had something to do with Office 365, software, AI. I'll be honest with you, go straight over my head. But what they did is they put their senior leadership team all through the MBA at the same time. So you said something quite poignant a second ago. They spoke the same language, and what it allowed them to do is work on work-based problems together. But they understood all the different terminologies and things, and that business has now evolved since they worked with us. I wouldn't say we were the only factor as the reason they've evolved, but it's lovely to be part of a journey like that for an organization.
Okay, and would you happen to have any stats on this? Because I know that when we're talking to people about certainly making your business as investable as possible, or you're looking at doing an MBO where your leadership team are tied into some of your value because you want to go, but
Mm.
you want to make sure they can actually still carry on and be successful without you. This
Yeah.
is no guarantee, but it's certainly better to have something than nothing. And
Yes.
then it shows people's commitment to what the MBA might look like. It's a decent test of people's aptitude and willingness to take something like this on. Did you happen to have any stats on that?
So the stats for the organisation that worked with us, 10 enrolled, 10 successfully completed. In terms of what it actually did as an impact for the business, because they actually merged with another organisation whilst they were doing their MBA. I don't have exact stats for you, but I've got plenty of quotes from the directors who put
Okay.
all their people through in terms of the difference it made.
I think next time just make it up. But I think what we might want to do is ask ChatGPT where the impact of an MBA on some sectors and most businesses. With and I'm going to ask about the price before we get there, so we make sure people are still in online with this. What's the ridiculously cheap price that people can get an MBA for these days?
Ridiculously cheap. I think value is better terminology for it. So we charge 2,940 for the level 7 extended diploma, which is two-thirds of the MBA, if you will. And then Cardiff Met charged 3,180 for the top up, which is the MBA. So you're looking just over £6,000 for an MBA
And that's
on the
six
way we do
grand
it.
over. And what's the average? You did it in 9 months. What's the average duration? A year?
Most people do it in about a year, 18 months, depending on how much time you've got to commit to it and how dedicated you are.
Okay. And do you pay for that all up front, or do you pay for it as you go?
No, that's a great question, Gary. So the level 7 extended diploma and the 2,940 can be paid on installments, or that can be paid as a one-off. And then once you graduate from that program, which normally takes about 6 to 12 months, you then pay the second installment with Cardiff Met, which is 3,180, and that's when you pay to do your MBA.
Compared to what we paid at Stanford, going back to my generation, it was over 100 grand.
Yeah.
Well, so that's really good value. I do like cheap. With and do you get any so that's obviously tax deductible, but
Mhm.
do you actually get any money from government as for future people development and training?
We have had in the past. So we've just done a project with UK SBF funding to put 10 leaders through Herefordshire through this, where they've completely paid for it. So government have paid for this. It is quite heavily, though, Gary, on the training provider to bid for those pots of money to put people through it. Whether or not businesses actually have any subsidies or any funding available to them, I wouldn't be 100% sure. I do know the level 7 has just fallen off of the apprenticeship levy, which is a shame. But businesses can still explore other ways of doing this.
Um, okay, what question should I ask you?
Shouldn't.
Good.
Oh, should ask me.
Yeah.
I think the key question for me really is when you're looking at something of this size, and what it is just not to be, you know, how academic is it? Like, do you have to be a bookworm? Do you have to live like a monk for the next 2 years inside theories? Because I think that question really is the barrier for most people, that and time.
Okay, and what's your typical answer to it? No, mate, you should be fine.
Something like that. I mean, I think the key answer to those sorts of questions really is, it's as hard as you want to make it. I think people look at education and something like this, Gary, like it. It's almost like gives them PTSD from school GCSE exams, and they go back into this. I can't do this. Where when you start looking at what an assignment is, what is an assignment, Gary? Well, it's a metaphorical problem to be solved. How often do people in their day in, day out solve problems day in, day out? Every single day. Reframe assignments as work-based problems. And it's amazing how that shift in your mind completely changes how you approach it.
And I'm guessing because of I know Guy, and we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
this previously. Because of the way that you're hand holding people through it,
Mm-hmm.
pass rate must be, I mean, it's pass or fail, but pass rate must be spectacular because the only reason that someone's not going to pass is if they quit. Is that is that fair?
No, that's 100% accurate. So we're sitting at about 98% outcomes at the moment with MEP and Cardiff Met. I will be honest with you though, Gary, and you've hit the nail on the head. Where people don't do it, it isn't for ability, it's the lack of applying themselves. If they put it to the back of their to-do list, eventually they time out, and that's a real shame.
Right. Okay. So if you're going to do this, it's 6 grand, and you will get a certificate at the end of it. Okay. It's like doing your 100 meter swimming. Right. Nobody stops
Yeah.
halfway. So it's one of those. You'll do this. You'll come back. You'll be um, Um, mentally, probably more agile. You'll have some frameworks that you can lean on for the rest of your life. So it's not just for work here today. If you can get your business to pay for this, a lot of businesses let people have discretionary investment pots for personal development. This would be an
Yeah.
amazing one because you can actually take this with you for life, and it's not tied to one organization. Just your dissertation is the value back that your company gets because you're going to do
Mm,
something which is a mutual benefit. Me as a boss, it's a reason I could probably tie people in that I'll pay for it. But if you leave it in 2 years, you pay me back, so I can help it for my
yeah.
longevity of service. But in the meantime, I'm showing some willing, showing some love, and I know that my leadership team, apart from now being arrogant, cheeky little shit, saying you didn't do this, so I know better than you. As long as you can deal with that, this is a win on everybody's behalf. Is
Yeah.
that a fair summary?
That was beautifully summarized, Gary. That's exactly right. I think when you look at the C-suite or the organization that we work with, your senior leadership team really they set the culture for your entire organization. But interestingly, they tend to be the layer of organizations we actually invest in least when it comes to regulated CPD. We'll put all of our middle managers on ILMs and CMIs, but to your point, if you want to retain your talent, doing something like this is a great way of retaining your talent.
Yeah, because then you give your notice, then you got to give me 6 grand back. Love that. So you forced them to stay. Love it. When you mentioned Hereford, was that SAS? Yeah,
Something like that, yeah.
yeah. Okay, that was the question that I couldn't ask you. Is there
Yeah.
anything else? If we were trying to wrap this up, is there anything that you'd again a final question from me or something that you'd like to say? That because I think this is a brilliant way to introduce something like this. A follow-up
Yeah.
disco call with you would be really interesting. We can talk about individuals rather than SLTs, but everyone's got their sort of their own issues about. Well, I'd like to Dave to do it, but there's no way that Trevor's going to try. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and is there any best practice in terms of is Dave worth more to me all of a sudden, right? So it's there are issues associated with that, but nothing which is insurmountable. So finally, is there a final wrap up question for me, or how do you want to wrap it up for yourself?
I suppose the last thing I would really want organizations and individuals to think about is just we had this conversation about growth mindsets and it's an overused terminology. I don't like it, but I'll reframe it. If you're not developing yourself, ask yourself, am I being lazy? Because a lot of people get into certain positions in the industry and they think job done, feet up. If you're not uncomfortable, then you're being doing yourself a disservice. Something like this is achievable with the right organization to be supporting you, but pick your organization carefully, Gary, because some organizations, like you said, is it a dodgy MBA from overseas? Yeah, they exist. But what's even more scary is there are quite predatory training providers in the UK that literally just see people as funding and then drop them once they've got the money. The way we look at it is, I say to my team, and I think you'll like this, Gary, if my team say Joe Bloggs can do this course, I hold my team responsible for ensuring Joe Bloggs gets to the finish line because they said he could do it.
Okay, love that. Well, I think it's an absolute no-brainer, and people get in touch with you through the circle.
Yeah,
Come to you direct and ask any specific questions about it. And from sign up to triggering this, is it all but instant?
yeah. So, I would say reach out to me on the Circle. I've got to say that's an amazing platform. I've used all sorts of networking platforms in the past. Circle is easy to navigate, easy to access people, and it's got all the features I'm looking for. So, I would say for anyone listening to this, if you want a one-to-one or you want to have a chat around all things learning and development, reach out to me on the Circle.
Okay, and I think we'll put this out on LinkedIn as well. We'll throw traffic your way there. And that's the Mentalist Entrepreneur Circle, which you can find on the mentalistentrepreneur.com. And well done, Emma, for choosing Circle as a platform because I thought it was too hard. So there you go. I'm not sure I'm MBA worthy. Craig, it's lovely to have you on board. Thank you very much. You've got a brilliant energy and aura about you. So that was a joy to participate. And if your trainers are half as good as that, I'd be all over it. So thank you very much. And we'll
My
post
pleasure.
it across all of the platforms. Cheers for wearing a tie.
Let's get going. Right, onwards. Thanks both.
See ya. Bye. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.